Meet the Freshman Purdue Boilermakers edition. We had transfer series where we did the top 21 transfer classes in the country, and our Discord was making jokes. We should have done a Purdue Meet the Transfers, and it's just 10 seconds of you and me sitting there in silence. Well, now we get to actually talk about Purdue basketball because they did bring in at least one recruit. They brought in 5 recruits. This is a class I'm very excited for, as a lot of people are very excited for. This class, as far as our recruiting class rankings go for this series, slots in 14th overall. And I have some thoughts about that. But first, I'll ask you, does that feel too high or too low?
Probably too low given the number of recruits, right?
It's a 5-man class. So we have 2-man classes listed ahead of this one.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right, but it also feels like I probably put Purdue right here at this range, didn't I?
You had Purdue 16th overall, so a little bit low. Brian Ralph did not rank Purdue in his top 20. So
Blind
blame
Jamal Ralph.
Blame Brian Ralph if you are wondering why this ranking got tanked. I think this is way too low. This is like we go up and down this list. I don't think there's a school on this list that I have too much of a gripe over where they landed. I have a big gripe on where Purdue landed here. I had them 8th. I have this as the 8th best recruiting class in the country, and ultimately it lands at 14th on our list. We will go player by player through this class, give a little bit of a projection, and talk through exactly what we are expecting for each. So let's jump right into that. We're going to work our way upward. We'll start at the bottom where we have CJ Cox, 6'2", freshman guard. He's a 3-star recruit, the 269th player in the country, according to On3. What's his role this year? And in general, what do you make of his game?
So the thing that Purdue has going for them is the timing of this video and when we're doing this. And I've had the ability to see some of these guys be in these preseason practice videos and see how they look. And I found myself very surprised with like the look of CJ Cox and how he's looked in some of these like preseason video things. Now because of the roster and the way it unfolds, I don't know necessarily where his role is. We'll talk about another freshman in this class who I think will maybe find his way in the rotation at the guard wing spot. But I think that down the line, Cox is going to be a player for and have a role for Purdue.
Yeah. The shot making is, I think, the most intriguing part here, right? Like if you go to like scouting report stuff, if you're trying to explain his game, it starts and ends, I think, with like he's a contested shot maker. Like
Mm.
he can get his shots off without any space. If it's contested, it can still go in for him, just like an open one will. There's a lot of good film also, we should say, with every single one of these freshmen. Shout out to Joe Jackson at Joe Jackson CBB. He's been doing film breakdowns for every single freshman in the entire Big Ten conference, but he's like a Bible for me when it comes to actual high school scouting and breaking down what players can do. He has full threads on all of these players, and the things you hear from us in this video are going to echo a lot of what Joe said. I think long term, this is a guy you project to be a serious rotation player. This year, I don't think he's going to play. I mean, Braden Smith is your starting point guard, and there's 34 minutes that need to go to him. Fletcher
Mhm.
Lawyer and Miles Colvin are the other guards on this team. I just don't see where there's a lot of space. And with all due respect to him, there's another guard further up this list that I think could impact things right away a little more than CJ Cox could. He might get some backup point guard minutes, maybe in the non-conference. But to be honest with you, my question with CJ on the court is like, how does he run as a floor general? Like,
Mhm.
is he just a really, really undersized shooting guard? And when you watch the film of him, Cart, it's a lot of contested shots. There's not a lot of like burst and getting himself open looks. I think he could struggle with the Big Ten size and physicality, at least early in his career.
Right. By the end of the career, you hope that he's the next Lance Jones.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be a good win. Next up the list is Jack Benter, 6'4", the 265th rated player, according to On3. Also a 3-star recruit. What do you think of Jack Benter?
I think that Benter, just in like full transparency, I don't know if I think he could find his way into Purdue's rotation like eventually, but this might be like a program guy type ad. Like you don't have to necessarily like maybe like him playing at Purdue isn't the most important thing. Like maybe he just kind of wants to be at Purdue. And that sounds harsh, but like I think that Jack Benter he's a volume scorer, right? 6'5" guard. He played I think he played at a lower level school in Indiana.
Yeah.
But like he was a guy who was able to be like a high volume scorer. I just don't know how he translates to the Big Ten level and to Purdue.
Yeah, he played at Brownstown Central. I believe he averaged 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists there. If you watch the film, I'm not going to speak to specifics on Brownstown because I don't know them. But if you watch the film, it looks like he's playing like Class D. And I don't mean that disrespectful. Maybe it's Class B, but it certainly is not the highest level of high school basketball I've seen in the state of Indiana. He more often than not was just the best player on the floor, sometimes like the biggest guard on the floor. Most of the film of him is him just shooting over people. He's a 6'5" shooting guard. You're not going to be able to do that in college. So I think there's big time competition question here, but there's not questions about his shot. Like if this kid's open, he's one of the best shooters in the country coming out of this prep class. It's just how's he ever going to get open at the college level? Now, Matt Painter can scheme people open. We know that. We've seen him do it. I think if you're talking like Purdue shooters, what are you going to do? There's like Sasha Stefanovic, who's the dream, the movement shooter, run him off a bazillion screens, who can also do some playmaking stuff. Then there's like a Ryan Klein, who is just a great shooter and he floor spaces and you will run some stuff for him, but not a lot. To me, the best case scenario here for Benter is Ryan Klein, and that's down the line. I don't think he can come close to a Ryan Klein in year one, but I think that's sort of what you're hoping. He's a program guy, good practice player, and if you get anything more than that, it is gravy. Next on the list is Raleigh Burgess. I'm probably saying that name wrong. I always mispronounce the word Raleigh. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But Burgess is a 6'11" big. Fringe 4-star. On3 has him as a 3-star guy. 118th rated player in the class. What's your scout?
So given what the front court is looking like this season, I don't know if there'll be a role for him right now, but I think down the line, Burgess is going to be a player that's going to be able to give front court depth to Purdue. Obviously at 6'10", and the way Coach Brantley and Purdue in general just develop bigs, you would bet on Burgess being a guy down the line. But given the front court rotation this season, and also given another freshman we'll be talking about, I think Burgess will find himself maybe buried on the bench this season. I know there's actually has there been some murmurs about Burgess and Benter possibly redshirting?
That's what I would do if I'm Painter and I'm doing what's best for my program. Or like if I'm playing a video game and I'm just trying to save my guys, I would redshirt for sure Burgess and Benter and maybe Cox. Now I think Burgess is the best player out of that group right now, although CJ Cox could be pretty good too. But I think Burgess is probably the most ready to play. With that said, TKR's there, Jacobson's there, and I think Will Berg's going to actually play some minutes. You don't need a fourth traditional big. You just don't. You're fourth in the pecking order, no matter how good, unless he just beats out Will Berg, which I guess could happen. But to me, like you don't even need to force that. Will Berg has waited his time. He's probably better than you right now. So I would redshirt him. With that said, long term, I think he could follow the TKR path here, Cart. Like he feels like a tweener big to me. Like Matt Painter is not ever going to want to play him at the 5, but he could play the 5. That might be where he's best suited to play. If you try to play him at the 4, I think you have some questions about defending the perimeter, which we had with TKR last year, but Edey was able to erase it all after it. Maybe long term you see a pairing of Burgess and Jacobson together, but it's going to depend on like, can he prove himself of needing a role the way TKR did? TKR's offense got good enough to a point where he earned that despite the fit concerns. Burgess is going to have to do that. If he's just a big body, maybe he gets buried on the depth chart the way Will Berg has. Up the list to a couple guys who I think are going to impact things for this team. Daniel Jacobson is actually per On3 lower rated than Burgess, which is crazy. I normally really agree with all things On3. There's no way Daniel Jacobson should be lower rated than Burgess. He's a 3-star, the 122nd rated player in the country per On3. You recently saw Daniel Jacobson with Team USA. where he was the starting center on a team that included Mraz Johnson, who's at Illinois, Nate Ament, who is a big time recruit, top 20 in the country type. Daniel Jacobson is 7'4". He is your next monster Purdue big in the same line of Matt Harms, Isaac Haas, and even Zach Edey. He grew. He was 7'2" when he committed to Purdue, 7'3" with Team USA, 7'4" on Purdue's official website now. It's insane. And his shot blocking instincts are superb.
Yeah, you've done it. You did it. You fought the good fight and you did it. You broke me. You got to it. This is Purdue starting center. That
Hey,
Yeah, you
I
got to.
did it.
You did it. You did it. This is Purdue starting center. I don't think that you can not start the 7'4" guy with great shot blocking instincts, especially at a school like Purdue and a school that you have mentioned. Like they like to play a very massive center. And that's kind of like what they are as a program. And I think that Daniel Jacobson, maybe they didn't expect him to take these steps as early as he has, but his development has seemed to just taken a jump even throughout the summer with his play with the USA and his play early on with Purdue. I think that this is a great ad for Purdue, and I think that this is their starting center right away.
Wow, we've come a long way because you were very anti that a couple months ago. Exactly like you said, if you have a 7'4" dude who can give you the shot blocking Jacobson did, he's not just big. That's not why he blocks shots. He blocks shots because he's an elite shot blocker. Like he has great timing, foul avoidance, all of it. Like he's just great. He's going to be incredible in that aspect. The question is all the offensive stuff, but he can shoot a little bit. I think he makes sense with TKR because you can actually have him stand on the perimeter and you have to respect him in a way that you never had to respect Zach Edey from three, at least when Painter didn't let him shoot. So I don't know. I think this can work. And if that happens, it does interesting things to the rest of the lineup because that means one of Lawyer, Colvin, or Heidi's coming off the bench. There's a couple guys there that I think could, but if they do, that means really good things for Purdue. It means Jacobson is awesome. So we'll see if I'm right or if I'm not. The final name on this list is Jakari Harris, played with Team Mexico in that same FIBA event. 6'4" freshman guard, 4-star, 75th rated player in the class. To me, this is the guard who will be in the rotation this year, without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I teased it earlier. I think that Jakari is a kid who is going to assert himself in the backup guard role, minutes, whatever it might be, whether it be spelling Braden or maybe even getting some time with the two. I mean, there's a lot of things I think you can do with him, but um, yeah, I think this is going to be a kid who's going to be in the rotation this season for backup guard minutes.
And I think he's capable of running backup point because to me, that's the question is like, is CJ Cox going to play because you need a point guard? But I actually would trust Jakari more than CJ Cox in like 5-spot backup point guard minutes. And I think he seems like a guy who does a lot of the little things. Again, shout out to Joe's Twitter thread, but like a lot of times you'll just see shot making and that's it from guys when you try to cut up clips. Jakari's like rebounding. He's defensively imposing his will. Like I think he just projects as a total team guy who is going to make life hell on Braden and Fletcher in practice, learn a lot from those guys. And the one thing is I don't think offensively he's from a shot making standpoint where CJ Cox is, but the fact that he was even invited to like a Team Mexico event to me signals that he does enough that organizations want him on the floor and want to give him chances. I think he ends up getting all the backup point guard or all the backup guard minutes. I think he can back up the 1 and the 2 and probably totals close to 15, maybe 20 minutes a game in year 1 with a really, really bright future after that. Okay, I have some superlatives for you now with this class. Who is the best? Actually, no, let's start with this. Is there a one and done player in this class? My answer is no.
Yeah, I say no as well because
That
you
would
don't
be
do that. You don't do that at Purdue.
that would be Painter's first one and done ever. If Cannon Catchings was in this class, would he have been a one and done?
Yep.
He might have been. It would have been close, but I think that's why he's not at Purdue because he for sure wants a guarantee, and that wouldn't have happened at Purdue. Next on the list, who's the best player right now in this class?
Daniel Jacobson.
It's Daniel Jacobson for sure. The guy who was with Team USA and starting for them, making an impact over some 5-stars. Who will have the best career at Purdue out of everybody in this class?
I think Jakari Harris might have the best career out of everyone in this class.
Really? What does it look like then?
I think it looks like he takes the keys from Braden going into his junior season.
It has like two special starting point guard years.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not going to overthink it. I think it's Jacobson. I think, with all due respect, the reason a 5-man class is rated 14th on our list, other than Brian Ralph tanking this, is because it's three guys who probably aren't going to play. And I know like a lot's been made. Well, oh, Painter, he had to get all these guys. He didn't need to bring in three guys who like aren't going to impact things. This class could have been Jacobson and Harris, and it would have been really nice in my eyes. It's good that you have some program guys, but I don't think I see Benter or Burgess ever being star types for Purdue. Maybe even starter types for Purdue. CJ Cox, maybe, but it's years away. Jakari Harris will be a good starter one day. Daniel Jacobson is a good starter now, I think. And he's also not a guy who I think will fly to the NBA, but I think in a 4-year career, he can be the next great Purdue big without question. Who will be the biggest disappointment from this class?
Ooh. Honestly, it I just go he could be the best player, then I go right back to Jakari Harris possibly being the biggest disappointment. I'm gonna say I hate this. We might have to remove this topic. I feel like I'm attacking like the worst kid in the class, but I think Benter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the answer for me too. I think like CJ will be a rotation player at some point. Burgess is a Purdue big, and you got to give him time, and that's fine. Benter is a guy who I think there's a chance he just straight up never plays for Purdue,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the competition questions with him are huge to me. So we'll see. He might shoot 50% from three this year and shock everybody. That seems to be a trend with Purdue players. There you have it. If you enjoyed this video, we've got 20 more from our Meet the Freshman Classes rankings series, dropping 3 per day this week and next week. Thank you for watching. Car, you know what I love about you?
That I'm handsome?
You're reliable. I can count on you. Honestly, you remind me of Aaron Henry a little bit. Remember when their back was against the wall, nothing was going right, and man just showed up every day. He didn't make excuses. There were no problems. There were just solutions.
Sounds like me.
That's you. And it also reminds me of Duncan Mechanical Solutions, because if you're looking for quality furnace repair, look no further than the heating and air experts that you can trust. Comfort and quality are their standard. They're an HVAC company that serves Northeast Indiana and Southern Michigan, whether it's heating and air conditioning, plumbing, kitchen and bath remodeling, or emergency services when you need them most. Duncan Mechanical Solutions has reliable service that you can count on. Cart, remember when your basement almost exploded?
I remember when my basement almost exploded. I remember when my furnace itself was acting funny. I remember when my AC was acting funny. I wish I had Duncan in my back pocket. I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been anywhere in northern Indiana or southern Michigan that hasn't been perfectly cool or perfectly warm, depending on when the day called for. And that's because of Duncan Mechanical Solutions. They are the presenting sponsor for the month of July. Shout out to Duncan Mechanical Solutions. Go to duncanmechanicalsolutions.com to learn more.